it all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
What's everybody up? Everybody, welcome into the Pod at the Palace. It's a special Saturday episode, and we're live. And if we're live, you know that means something happened. Sometimes it's bad news, sometimes it's good news. In this case, very good news for the Arkansas Razorbacks. How about a Saturday news bump for the Hogs on a day where they're not even playing? I was tripping because I'm like, man, it's the first Saturday that Arkansas hasn't played in a minute. What are we going to do with our time? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to react to some big news. Seth Greenberg dropped a bomb during halftime of the SEC tournament game between Florida and Alabama that he received word from John Calipari, who we know is his boy, right? The law firm of Greenberg, that he heard from John Calipari that freshman guard Boogie Fland has been cleared, working out, is expected to practice on Sunday, and is expected to return to the Razorbacks for the NCAA tournament, barring any setbacks. As soon as I went live here, we actually got an email, an official release from the U of A. So let me read that real quick. So this is directly from the university. Arkansas freshman guard Boogie Fland has been medically cleared to resume basketball activities and will begin practicing with the team immediately, barring any setbacks. He is anticipated to be available to play in the NCAA tournament. Well, okay, there you have it. I mean, listen, that is major news for the Razorbacks here. All right, Boogie. So he missed the last 14 games after he underwent that surgery, right, to repair a torn ulnar collateral ligament, the UCL, in his thumb. Prior to that, I mean, he's averaging 15 points per game. He was the best three-point shooter in Arkansas's backcourt. He was on pace to potentially set a program assist record. He was over 100 assists in the time that he played, and he had an elite assist-to-turnover ratio. Really, really good. I mean, projected first-round pick for Arkansas. So getting that guy back is a good thing for the Razorbacks. Now, to those who, I get it, have to find the negativity in anything, let me get out ahead of you a little bit, okay? I get it. I understand where you're coming from. We'll talk about it for a second here. Arkansas was 0-5 in SEC play with Boogie Fland. I was there. I watched. I understand, okay? And he struggled with his efficiency in those couple of weeks. He absolutely did. And he was also hurt for the last 2.5 games of that there. Listen, I tend to subscribe to the thing of I believe that Arkansas was eventually going to figure it out anyway. But it is not lost on me at all how much better this team has looked with DJ Wagner on the ball, with Nelly Davis out of the corner with the higher usage rate where he can cook, where he can rock a little bit. I get it. At the same time, though, folks, it is also not lost on me that this team has 7 active players on the roster. 7. One is almost unplayable right now with a thumb injury that he sustained at the SEC tournament. Another plays through full body cramps literally every game. So do you even really have 7? Foul trouble has been a major concern. When they get into some foul trouble, it impacts their way to be aggressive on the defensive end of the floor, which is something they need, right? That's kind of their calling card right now. Losing legs late because of fatigue has been a problem. I think about some of those late leads that Arkansas has blown, where they've had to build up double-digit leads just to get across the finish line. You don't think some of that's not due to fatigue? Look, this news helps immensely for Arkansas. Obviously, hey, like fingers crossed, knock on wood, assuming that the next few days of practice go well for Boogie, right? I mean, we can all go ahead and put that qualifier in there, just like the U of A did. But I like it. I'm pumped up. I'm excited. This is good. This is a shot in the arm for the team, a shot in the arm for the program, and it's exciting. It's big news. The good thing here is that, in my opinion, at least, it was a thumb for Boogie, right? And what I mean by that is he should be pretty much good to go in terms of conditioning. A lot of times that's what you worry about after injury. The dude has been out for nearly 2 months now. What's that going to look like? Well, he might not be in game shape, but he should be in good shape. Like his legs and lungs should be all right. A thumb injury is not stopping him from running laps, running sprints, getting his cardio in, doing his conditioning. All that should be there. It's not the same as going out and playing in a game, right? We can all agree with that. But you can stay in shape. Your cardio is still there. Also, I don't think Arkansas needs to be leaning on him for 34.1 minutes per game here, which is what he was averaging. The dude was leading the SEC in minutes before he went out. They're not going to need that from him, right? Like if you can get I mean, what are we talking about here? 12 to 15 minutes or so off the bench, backup point guard minutes, or, off the ball minutes. I think you could really find some good value here for Arkansas. This is a good thing. Because, man, if you think about the guys who've been playing the heavy, crazy amounts of minutes here, it's been DJ Wagner, who I'm pretty sure probably leads the SEC in minutes now, right? John L. Davis, he's been playing 38, 39 minutes per game. Does it not look to you guys like Carter Knox has been hitting maybe a little bit of a freshman wall in terms of, you see that every year. Like, guys have to kind of push past it a little bit. By the way, we're going to have Andrew Ellis here in just a couple minutes to react to the news with us. But I think this is important for Arkansas. If it just backs those guys off to 34, 35 minutes per game, you're going to see a team that's a lot more juiced up down the stretch, which I think is exactly what they need. And hey, hell, if Boogie can come in, initiate some offense, not turn it over, which he didn't do beforehand, you have an asset there. And if he can bang home a couple threes in the process, like, that's the cherry on top. So I don't expect Arkansas to do the thing where, oh, he's cleared, fine, it's right back to the way it was, and you're playing him 35 minutes a game, and he's on the ball the entire time, and are we worried about it being clunky, or worried about the chemistry and all that? I would be very surprised if they did that. Surprised and disappointed. But if you can bring him back, that's a heck of a six man to have once you get into NCAA tournament play. And they didn't have any guards really coming off the bench anyway. Like Billy, he strikes me obviously as more of a wing. I know he was playing backup point, but I think taking him off the ball and letting him be a cutter, filling the lanes in transition, that, offensive rebounder, I like that idea better than point guard Billy Richmond personally. And then you had, Jonas coming off the bench, or Big Z, or whoever it's going to be. So adding to the backcourt here, I think, is important. And the last thing I'll say here, and then we'll bring Andrew in, this is why we kept reporting on his status even after Rothstein went out there and said, "Oh, it's expected to be a season ender," because it didn't necessarily line up with exactly what we were hearing. This is why we've been consistently reporting for a while now that the intent for Boogie was to get fully healed, and they weren't going to rush it. But if the timeline matched up, the dude was trying to come back and play. And I know our friends over in Lexington were telling us otherwise and making the Shaden Sharp comps, and he's shutting it down for his draft stock and all that. And I'm sure they had those experiences before, but that was never really the indication that we had here in regards to Boogie status. So good news for the Razorbacks. And again, knock on wood, cross your fingers, whatever, in terms of that man, feeling good and getting out of practice without, swelling or pain or setbacks or whatever you're looking for. But this is a good thing here for the Hogs. Let's get Andrew here and see how he's feeling about this. Hello, sir.
Hello, Curtis.
How you doing, buddy?
It's good to see you again today. I already saw you once today in real life, and I feel like I got my Curtis fix. But when news strikes, when that bat signal goes up in the sky, we have to show up, and this is certainly big news that we couldn't just let slide without talking about it. I think you and I, we've talked about Boogie Fland a lot, and we're pretty aligned on this thing. I understand the hesitancy from some people to say, hey, well, is Boogie coming back? Are we sure that's a great thing? Because, you're just going to throw him back in there and he's just going to mess up the rhythm. I get that in theory. That sounds good for like talking heads like us to say. But anybody who thinks this is going to be just a 0 to 100, Boogie Fland is starting at point guard in the NCAA tournament, is going to play 37 minutes and everything's going to run through him. I don't think that's the case. Now, we could be wrong. Of course, we don't really know. But I feel like this is like an icing on the cake type of thing. You can see what you can get out of him. Who even knows what game shape he's like? I don't think that Arkansas or anybody is expecting him to go in and play a ton of minutes necessarily. But you touched on it there. Like, I think Arkansas right now, Billy Richmond's running the backup point guard minutes, basically. Yeah. And we agree that that's not necessarily the best role for him. And so if nothing else, you're getting a very overqualified backup point guard. And in terms of the disrupting the rhythm and all that, I understand Boogie Fland is a big-time recruit, a high-profile blue-chip prospect who, typically those guys you think, oh, do they have a little bit of an ego? And look, I'm sure Boogie, wants to shine, wants to do well for himself. But this time of year, it's really hard to have an ego. And we see this all the time in the NCAA tournament. You get into these modes. There's not really time to, assess who all needs what and is everybody getting their fix. It's just about helping the team win. And so I think Boogie is coming in with that mentality. He's been here with this team on this journey. He's been itching to get back and just help the team any way he can. And so I think from that standpoint, I don't really have too much concern. And again, I just think it's a very overblown narrative that he's going to come in and really disrupt DJ Wagner. Those guys are going to, DJ's still going to be running point. Nelly's still going to be heavily involved in what they do offensively. I just think that Boogie could give Arkansas a little bit of a spark. And, for a guy that we thought, again, initially, we thought he might be out for the year, I think anything he can give you is icing on the cake. I would be concerned if Arkansas were going into the NCAA tournament expecting Boogie to solve a bunch of issues. Yes. I don't think that's what he's here to do. I think he's here to help where he can, and maybe that's just spot-up shooting. Maybe that's just, giving Arkansas some secondary playmaking. Both things he's very capable of doing. I saw a number, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, that Boogie Fland shot 50% on catch-and-shoot threes this year. Now, obviously, he didn't get a ton of catch-and-shoot threes because a lot of the threes he was taking were off the dribble. But you think about a guy like that coming in as like your eighth man, your backup point guard, and he's able to knock down open shots, be a really good athlete, can finish in transition. I also think he's going to help a little bit on the defensive end. And if he's coming in for 10, 12 minutes, whatever, I want to see him playing with his hair on fire on the defensive end, which we didn't really get to see because he had such a ball handling responsibility and he was playing 35 minutes. I would be stunned just knowing Boogie Fland and how skilled he is and how many things he brings to the table if he didn't come and help Arkansas a little bit. Now, is it going to completely change the direction of this team or this season? I don't know, but I'm excited about this news, and I think more Hog fans should be. And I gotta say, all the people who when this first news came out and people were saying crazy stuff about Boogie Fland, saying, "Oh, he's Nick Smith, he's just sitting out. Oh, he just doesn't want to be here." Blah blah blah. Those people should feel really stupid right now. They were always stupid, and we knew they were stupid, but they should feel even stupider today.
Yeah, you mentioned, and I agree, by the way, but you mentioned Boogie and those catch and shoot threes. How many times early in SEC play when he was laboring, and like it was an adjustment period for him. Like I said earlier, like we're not immune to that. Like we're not ignoring that. We saw what happened in those first 5 games of SEC play, and he struggled with his efficiency. At times, he was literally the only guy who created anything out there. So I felt like he kind of felt like he needed to put the onus on his shoulders. He would have flashes where he was awesome. Like when he almost willed him back in that LSU game, I remember, and there were some other times there where he really showed out. But for the most part, he did. He struggled there in SEC play. But he also had some big games for Arkansas in non-conference play as well. He kind of willed them there in that Michigan game, that huge game that they won. I remember he had 17 points, 7 assists, 0 turnovers against Baylor on a neutral floor earlier in the year. And he had some down ones too. The Illinois game wasn't a good one for him. It was up or down, but he's an immense talent, and you need bodies, man. You really do. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
How uncomfortable did we feel against Ole Miss when Arkansas was in so much foul trouble there? And then you had Billy, cramping up on the sideline every 30 seconds. And Z, it's like you can't even put him out there with that thumb. What's going on? What the heck are they going to do? Jonas fouls out. You're freaking out. This changes that dynamic entirely. But you mentioned those catch and shoot threes. I feel like we talked about that a lot, where we're thinking maybe at some point here, if Arkansas is struggling to knock down threes, why not just move Boogie off the ball and let him be that catch and shoot guy in the corner, put him in that role that they had Nelly in? That's kind of the role I would like to see him in when he comes back, unless he's taking the backup point guard minutes when you get DJ out of there for a breather. And let's be honest, it's not like DJ's all of a sudden going to be playing 28 minutes or something. No, he's still going to be playing his 35 or whatever. So it's all good there. You mentioned Boogie potentially helping on the defensive end of the floor, and Arkansas forced more turnovers when Boogie Fland was in the lineup because he's really good at picking up, reading things, jumping the passing lanes, getting some deflections, and he might be able to help fuel some offense in transition in that way as well. Again, we're not doing a thing where we're saying, yeah, just throw him right back in the lineup and let's go back to January and see what happens. No, not that at all. But adding a very, very talented supplemental piece off the bench, I think can only be construed as a good thing for Arkansas.
100%. And it's going to be very interesting, not only to see what role he ends up being deployed in, really how many minutes. There's so many questions we can have about what this is going to look like. I mean, the dude hasn't played in, 15 games straight games that he's missed. This is certainly going to be a unique situation. But again, I come back to the backup point guard situation, and we love Billy Richmond, and Billy Richmond's obviously still going to have a massive role for Arkansas. We think this is going to kind of, like you said, move him off ball. And I agree that when DJ's out there, and because I think there's going to be some overlap between the DJ minutes and the Boogie minutes, that's going to be the most interesting dynamic to me. But I also do think whether it's Boogie or DJ being on the bench or just DJ getting a breather from having to run the offense, the creation aspect from Boogie Fland is something that you just always need in March. we always joke about how you got to have a point guard to make a run in March, and the guards seem to kind of take over. And I know that Boogie Fland has kind of this reputation as a chucker and a black hole offensively. But I do just want to point out the dude averaged 5.7 assists to 1.6 turnovers.
It's ridiculous.
Billy Richmond, by the way, who's playing a good bit of minutes, averaging basically 1 turnover, 1 assist per game. Like there's like almost no separation between his assist and turnover ratio. And of course, it's different players, different sample sizes, different skill sets. I get all that. But I just think people are kind of overlooking how overqualified Boogie Fland is about to be for the role that he's about to be in. I agree wholeheartedly. If Arkansas was going to mix him into the starting rotation and play him with all these guys and really disrupt the rhythm, I would be concerned. I just don't think that's what's happening. We'll ultimately see what his role ends up being, but I think you and I are very aligned on this in that it's something that could only possibly help Arkansas. I think if they play him and it doesn't look right, the rhythm's weird, and it's just not really, he's not fully trusting it yet, you don't have to play him then. Okay, then you just take him out of the game and you move on. I mean, we saw Arkansas bench Nick Smith down the stretch in some of those games in the NCAA tournament when he was in a similar situation. And Nick Smith actually had more time to ramp up and kind of get used to things with the team. They benched him in crunch time in those tournament games multiple times. And so it's like, if you think they're not going to do something similar with Boogie if it doesn't work out, I think it's actually pretty easy to do. And so I also think the rotation aspect, having 7 guys, for when you're having a guy who's going to basically be giving guys a breather, for that guy to be so athletic and to be able to kind of change the tempo of the game and change everything, I just feel like you're going to get kind of the best possible version of Boogie coming off the bench, because his role is going to be reduced so much from what it was the last time he played for Arkansas, where pretty much everything was running through him. I think that's going to make Boogie better as well as these other guys.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%, man. I think it's a good thing for the Hogs. And I want to see what the people think about it. So let's hop into the chat, and then we'll go pretty quick here today because, pregnant wife, she's eating for 2. She's hungry, right? She needs to get me out of this house for dinner. So we're definitely going to do that. But super chat, we got one. Thank you from B. Walter. He says, hell yeah, boys. I think that's the reaction that you should have. Yeah. I really do. I'm not here to try too hard to tell people how to feel or how to think, but my goodness, man, this team was desperately thin. And the more reserves you can have. I heard somebody, and this is just a very hypothetical thing, but I mentioned how cool I thought it was that they were projected to play who at UCLA and whoever else it was in Denver. And somebody was like, well, what about the altitude, like the elevation, playing there with 7 guys or whatever. They'll have time to get over there and get acclimatized and everything. But just in general, they're going to be winded anyway, man. And there's something to be said about the pressure of the NCAA tournament. It weighs on you, and it literally impacts you with your wind. All of a sudden, you're a little bit tireder than you expected to be. Your legs feel like they weigh a ton of piece or whatever. Like you get cement blocks attached to your feet. Having extra bodies to get in there and get a breather early when that adrenaline's going too, it's important, man. So I think this is a cool thing. Camel Hog asked about, do you think this will affect chemistry? It doesn't have to. I really don't think that it has to. And they're going to have several days to practice here. And they also played 18 games with him. It's not like they just picked up a dude off the waiver wire. There we go. Waiver wire, or they pulled him up from the G League or whatever. So there's chemistry already there. I think what would disrupt it is if, like we talked about, if Cal is just like, hey, you're our starting point guard and you're going to dominate the ball, and we're going right back to where we were. And I just don't think he's going to do that.
Another thing that I think is worth noting in this, and again, we're kind of just reading between the lines of a bunch of stuff that we don't truly know, but I think the fact that Boogie's been with the team for these last couple weeks, been traveling with them, been on the road, been there behind closed doors, been with these guys on and off the court, it's not like they just haven't had any discussions about what it's going to look like. Everyone kind of knew what he was working back towards. I'm sure Boogie himself, he goes out and he gets some shots up. He's feeling good. He probably sends those guys a text. Yo, hey, DJ, Nelly, I'm feeling good. I'm coming back. And there's probably if we think about how often you and I, Curtis, have talked about the possibility of Boogie coming back. You think those dudes, while they're on the bench, while they're on the plane, while they're at the hotel, are not talking about this kind of stuff? It's not like you're just taking Boogie Fland, dropping him onto the court and being like, all right, go. Like they've kind of all been knowing this is the plan. This was the best case scenario. This is what they wanted. And so I really don't think it's going to be this thing where everyone's like, oh, damn, Boogie's back. oh, what are we gonna do? Like, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's not like they were just chilling watching Florida and Alabama just now and then got the news and they were like, oh wow. They knew that this was coming. And also, like, if you listen to the post-game interviews recently, even when Arkansas has been winning and playing well, all those guys, like, what do they start every answer with? Man, like, we just got 7 guys right now, so we're just trying to, I think that they're welcoming this addition. I'd be very surprised if that wasn't the case. Johnny Young says, don't want to see Nelly Davis go back in the shell, though. I don't either. I don't either. I think that's super important, and that's why, I'm very bullish and wanting to get right out there ahead of it and say, you can't just go back to what you were doing beforehand. It would be, in my opinion, Boogie who is going to have to do something different in terms of his role. And I think he understands that. He's a smart kid, team player, and I think he'll accept that role. You need to keep Nelly right in the exact role that he's been in. And also, I don't think Boogie's going to be playing enough for it to disrupt things too much. I really don't. Like, if he gives you 12, 15 minutes, I mean, I think you take that and you're good with it. Here's the other thing I'll say. Jonell Davis has played in the Final Four, played in multiple NCAA tournaments. He's a senior. He's a veteran. He's also got to have the mental toughness to not let it impact him. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And we all agree that, like, I think some of his struggles early in the season were just due to him coming off injury, himself kind of needing to figure out, kind of like Cal said with Trevin, the battles between him and himself. It's not always as simple as he hates playing with Boogie Fland.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right there. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Megan, I think you sum it up. We need depth in the tournament. This gives us more. Yeah, it's true. I mean, once you get to this stage, I mean, even think about Eric Musselman's teams that made the NCAA tournament. They were playing, I mean, it was really 6 guys playing most of the minutes, but they'd have the ability to go to a 7th and 8th if they needed to get guys blows, to get guys, time if they picked up 2 fouls in the first half or whatever. Isn't it just, do you not automatically feel so much better to think, okay, well, if Nelly gets 2 fouls by the first media timeout, I'm not going to have to play him, in that situation, or I'm not going to have to ride, my other 5 guys the entire time, or I'm not going to have to freak out and put Jaden Carlette, with no disrespect, in for a period of time. Oh, no, we can just go to Boogie Fland in a pinch. Like, oh, break glass in case of emergency. It's, a future NBA guy. So I'm good with it, man. I think it's a good thing. Heartbroken Hog. Yeah, he says, good to see you on a Saturday, Curtis. Exactly. It's like we said at the top. If we're live here on a Saturday and there's not a game going on, there's news, right? And sometimes it's bad and sometimes it's good. Get used to it. Go ahead and turn your noties on because it's almost transfer portal season. Hell, Arkansas is already in the mix for the kid from Iowa, Freeman, the big fella, which I like. Exciting whites, So keep, listen, we're going to be doing a lot of this here coming up. And this is a good thing because I did not enjoy hopping on here with John Neighbors at 10:30 in the middle of January to talk about Boogie being out when all that went down. So this is much better, and I appreciate it. Scott wants to know who injured their thumb at the SEC tournament. Big Z did. So unfortunately,
and let's just. I don't want to downplay thumb injuries. Z's gonna be fine.
Yeah, he's all right. He'll be all right. He was kind of struggling anyway. You know what I mean? The thumb is just a nice maybe deflection on our part to be like, yeah, well, he's just got to get that thing right. He's really hasn't been playing well the last week or two. No
one toes the injured or bad line more than Big Z. But a lot of times his struggles, there's an injury somewhere in the stratosphere. You're a big guy. Just it's hard not to be hurt. Yeah, I agree. Scott Norman got you again here on the double chat. Nice work. He says DJ will start and play most of the point, but no way having Boogie back isn't a good thing. This is the philosophy that I'm choosing to believe in as we go into the to the NCAA tournament here. Johnny Young says, sure hope Knox gets going again. I do too, but I was encouraged by his showing against Ole Miss. He hit 3 threes, saw the ball go in the net a little bit, and after the game, Andrew, I don't know if you wind up seeing this or not, but Cal was talking about him, and he was like, hey, in the first half of that game, Carter was being a child. He was acting like a child and called him out for it, had a discussion about it, and then he grew up in the second half. I agree. we were talking about his body language. We were
Yes.
not happy with his body language there in the first half, and then we called for him to step up, and he did step up, and so it was good to see. But yeah, I think this Boogie situation, if there's anybody, as much as we're talking about DJ and Nelly, and those guys are going to be relevant here too. If this kind of puts a little bit of pressure on Carter, if there's anyone, because you're not going to bench DJ in crunch time. I don't think you're going to bench Nelly in crunch time.
No,
you could bench Carter in crunch time, especially if Billy Richmond's playing with his hair on fire off the bench. If Boogie's coming in and he's making shots and he's making things go, I think it kind of forces Carter to kind of step up and just be in that mindset of doing whatever he can to help the team. Obviously, different players, somewhat different roles, but Curtis, would you be stunned if in the second game of the tournament, Boogie has a really hot stretch in the second half and they're like, you know what? Let's just close with this lineup. You know what I mean? Like, would that be the most stunning thing in the world?
No, it absolutely wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, if he comes in and he's cooking, and how cool would that be? We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but how awesome would it be? He checks into the game and, first possession, it's defense. Arkansas gets a stop. He's running the wing in transition, just catch it, like first touch, just drills a three.
Yeah.
Oh, man, the tweets would be electric. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm only entertaining this for one reason, but Samuel Brooks says 0-5 in SEC play with him, shot under 30% from the field in SEC play. He's trash. Only be fine with him being back if he plays 10 to 15 minutes off the bench to set up guys.
This is such a funny comment because he accidentally landed on the right take of like, I'll only accept this if they ease him back into the mix coming off an injury. Well, that's obviously what they're going to do. Like, that's kind of the only option to start, I think. I
agree, man. And it's, like we've talked about it, like we're not naive to the struggles, but I do subscribe to the thought that Arkansas, this team was going to eventually figure it out and start playing better basketball, whether Boogie was there or not. I think that was going to happen. Did it happen sooner because they shook things up the way they did? Maybe so. Do I like the roles that these guys are in now as opposed to what they were? Absolutely. But I do get frustrated just in general. And it's not just like Arkansas fans, but just there's this thing with any fan base where when a team is struggling or when something isn't going right, you just always have to find one guy to throw it on. Always got to pin it on somebody. And then when Boogie went down and Nelly sucked, it was him. And then he was good. And then it was Jonas. And then Jonas was good. Now everybody's like, what do we, who do we have to throw this on?
Speaking of, since we're referencing Boogie Fland's numbers in SEC play, which, by the way, like I'm not even really knocking you for, I want to read this excerpt from Curtis. I don't know if you had time to read this or if you were going live. The U of A sent out a release, by the way.
Yeah, we mentioned it.
Because I saw some people on Twitter were talking about, is this just a lie by Kelsey sending that stuff? I don't think the U of A would put out a release of like just straight up fake news, but I want to read this excerpt. The injury originally occurred in Arkansas's game against Florida, January 11th. And he attempted to play through the injury in the Razorbacks' next two games at LSU and at Missouri, where he had 19 points in one of those games, the 19 points against LSU, and I don't know what he did against Missouri. But since those are the two, like two of the 5 games he played in the SEC were post injury, and one of those games he got injured during. So I don't know if like being like, well, he stunk in the first 5 games, so that's why we should hate him now. I think in hindsight, it's easy to look back and say, one, it was his first few SEC games against really good defensive teams, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Florida. Those are pretty tough to start the game. And then 2, that he was injured. I think that that's an oversimplification of Boogie's, what he can bring to the table.
Sure. I love how in the U of A release that they kind of italicized and made a separate note with the 2 games there that he did play through the injury. It's like, note, he scored 19 points in that game at LSU and dished out 11 assists to just 2 turnovers in the LSU and Missouri games combined. It's like, hey, just letting everybody know he played okay when, but they didn't put the shooting percentage in there. Hey, listen,
in Missouri, he was really bad.
We understand some of the spin zone. Okay. Like there are certain things you're going to include and certain things you're not, right? I mean, that's just kind of the way that this goes. So that was pretty funny though. Unbiased Brim says Curtis explained it so beautifully that I don't need to add anything to it. Well, thanks. I was fully prepared for about 10 minutes worth of a monologue before I got into the chat because I was getting all my notes ready and I didn't even see that Andrew was basically like, hey, I'm free, man, if you want me to hop on. So I made sure that I had all my details and all my information ready. But I'm glad that you popped in here, man. That way we could riff about it a little bit. It's good stuff.
Absolutely.
Connor Robinson says, what do you think about Boogie and Nelly running off screens on both sides and the 2-man game on either side from there? think we will see something like that. Yeah, I hope so. I would love to see both of those dudes running off screens. Sign me up for that, man. I understand the thought process early in the year or whatever, but doesn't it just make so much more sense for DJ to be initiating that? And then you have your two best shooters out there on the wings for spacing. Hell, I mean, just thinking about the potential here. And again, we have no idea. Like everything I said about it being an upper body injury in a good way in terms of, oh, he's still been able to condition, so he should be in pretty good shape. His legs should be under him. All that's true. But on the other side, it was a thumb. It's like he hasn't been able to shoot a lot. I saw him out there a few times doing some form shooting with his offhand and everything. This is different. So, like we think about Nelly's shooting when he was coming off of that wrist injury, took him a while, right? Yeah. I'm sure he's been getting reps in, he'll get some time in practice. Very well might be some rust. I also don't expect him to come in taking 12, 15 shots. But what I will say is the thought coming in my mind with the way Trevin's playing right now of having DJ running the show, and then you have Boogie, who is arguably your best shooter in the backcourt, Nelly, who's figured it out, and Z, if he's knocking down threes, and Trevin out there on the floor. And it's like, this team can't shoot. All of a sudden they'd have a lineup that could stroke it. So I don't know. It's weird to think about this going into do or die time, but the possibilities really are endless if it works out best case scenario.
When you think about running any type of these actions where teams have to worry all five guys can really create their own offense. I also think you mentioned that he's not going to be taking 12 to 15 shots a game. Because I think, I've seen a few people in the chat will be like, well, I mean, I love Nelly. I just wish he didn't take some of these stupid pull-up twos. And I agree wholeheartedly. That's something we were kind of hard on Nelly for, is sometimes he would take these just baffling early shot clock, long twos to try and get going. If you think I said Nelly, if you think Boogie's shot selection is going to be the same in this situation as he's working his way back than it was early when he was playing 35 minutes and running the offense and being the main guy, it's going to be very different mentalities offensively. Maybe he's just going to be chucking and say, I'm going to get as many shots in as I can. I would imagine, he's not an idiot. Like Boogie Fland's a pretty smart guy. A lot of times, even when he's taking those shots that we don't like, he's doing it because he knows he's earned the right. He has the confidence to do it because he knows he can make those shots. But I don't think he's coming in with that type of score first mentality to this situation than he was the last time we saw him.
Yeah, for sure. Finch feels the other way, and that's okay. But he says, I'd rather Billy because he looks to pass. Boogie mainly looks for creating shots. I will just point out that Boogie Fland was second in the SEC in assists when he went out. I mean, he had over 100 assists. He was averaging nearly 6 a game. It's hard to mainly be looking to create shots when you're only trailing Zakai Ziegler in the league in assists as a true freshman.
I understand, like,
he was
Boogie had the ball in his hands a lot, so he
very
was
ball dominant. Exactly.
No matter what. But I mean, we're talking about literally like per 40 minutes, we're talking about like 3 or 4 times the amount of assists. Billy, it's weird because like Billy has so many things that he brings to the table. I actually don't think his playmaking is one of those things where he really excels. I don't think he's that's a big part of his game, being able to set up offense for other people. He can create for himself a little bit off the dribble, but I don't think that's really been something he's excelled in. And so Boogie definitely has more experience doing that.
You know where I thought Billy looked his best was against Ole Miss the other day when it was DJ using the ball screen, getting 2 feet in the paint, and then Billy cutting from the baseline, and catching and attacking from the short corner or getting to the rim or crashing for offensive boards. I think that's where he's at his best, man. And I think he'd be a really, really big asset. Arkansas immediately becomes a better offensive rebounding team. I like all that a little bit more than I like him at point guard. And that's not even to say that he sucks there or anything like that. No, I think he's done a really admirable job considering it's not a position that he's played, probably not a position he was prepared to play when he got here. Did good there, but he's had he had the 7 turnover game not too long ago, and just some pretty careless passes. I think he had 3 turnovers against Ole Miss. So I love the idea of taking some of that pressure off of him too, and just kind of letting him go out there and do what he does best, which is be the freshman Devo guy who's just like running around with his hair on fire and Energizer Bunny and diving for loose balls and going crazy. That's what I want from Billy, man. I think that serves him a little bit better.
I mean, these guys average similar turnovers per game, Boogie and Billy. And Boogie just averages damn near 6 assists, and Billy averages a little over 1 assist per game. Like there's no doubt. And Billy has so many things, like you say, so many things he brings to the table. Playmaking just really hasn't been one of those things.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, BTC Pack's got a couple good ones in here. He did point out that that 3-pointer against Miami that we were talking about some of the non-conference games where he really came up big for Arkansas. I remember that shot. Do you remember when Arkansas almost lost to that Miami team?
I do. I think Boogie hit a bunch of threes down the stretch in that game, didn't he?
Yeah, he that's when he kind of emerged as like, oh, okay, he is going to be the closer for this team.
Yeah.
I feel like another good point. You're making good points. I'm going to keep pulling it up, man. This is good. I'm really happy for Boogie. He was so supportive on the bench, and that was the first clue in to me that he intended to return. There would have been no reason for Boogie Fland to come back to school with, do his rehab on campus, be with the team. And then he started traveling with them. And it's like, okay, there might be something to this. And then they did the segment on him on the Vice documentary, going through his rehab and everything. And he's like, oh no, I'm just trying to work as hard as I can to get back. Then they bring him out there on Cal's show at Sassy's, it's like one thing after another here lately, where you're kind of thinking there might actually be something to this. And I feel like the closer we got, I'm sure he was going back and getting follow-up evals from the doc, and things were looking good, and healing was on time. And it was like, okay, maybe if you get to this final, checkpoint and you clear, then we can start ramping you up and getting you going. I think that's where we're at here. So good stuff, man. Hell, one more question here from me. He says, are y'all doing a Selection Sunday live? Yes, we are.
Very simple.
Good time to plug that. It's 5:00 Central tomorrow when the selection show comes on. Have that on your televisions, but join us. We're going to do a watch party like we do for the games. React to all the selections. Obviously, we'll have a live reaction to Arkansas's destination and opponent, whoever and wherever that might be. And it'll be a good time. We're looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun. So make sure you tap in for sure. Let's see. Oh, we got some super chats in here, man. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us on a Saturday, and make sure you tap in. Baseball's still on, is scheduled.
Baseball's still on for now.
Tornadoes didn't.
I think they're going to be fine. I think that the skies have kind of cleared.
Good. I like that. Hog Barbecue. We appreciate you. Said I was reading the kid from Iowa has a no contact tag. That's what's up with that? Well, that's a good thing for Arkansas. What that means is when a guy hits the portal, if they put a no contact tag on, it means they kind of control where their contact information goes, like who can reach out to them, who can get involved. Some of these guys don't want 100 schools reaching out to them. They might already have an idea kind of where they want to go, or a certain list of teams that they want to reach out to, or that have, back channeled or reached out to them, whatever. That's what that is. What I can tell you is when I woke up this morning, I had a couple different messages that said, Arkansas is going to be in on this Iowa kid, like heads up. And since that time, I think that's been confirmed in a lot of places. In fact, I think it was Tipton, and Tipton knows, man, like, hey, he's on top of it. And I think he said Arkansas, Michigan, Gonzaga, and Creighton, I think, or like the early front runners here for this kid. So keep an eye on it. He's good, man. Listen, this is a dude who was Big Ten Freshman of the Year last year, by the way. And then he was averaging like 17, 7, and 2 blocks this year as a 6'10" guy in the Big Ten. I mean, if you're doing that, you've got to be a pretty good player. So I'm excited about the potential here. We'll see where it goes.
Also, you love the guy who's leaving because of a coaching change. Yeah. Because it like lets you know he's not just wheeling and dealing and going where like he's leaving because his coach is gone.
And he did miss the last month or so of the season. He had finger surgery. So he's kind of in the same situation as like Boogie was or whatever. And I think that rubbed maybe a lot of Iowa fans wrong because they're like, oh, it's a finger. The dude's soft. And then he left, and a lot of people were saying, oh, he was already out the door or whatever. Who knows, man?
We got a Justin Smith situation.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm interested. This guy has my interest. If you get a chance, check out his tape, Andrew, on YouTube. Okay. And if you don't, just watch the Pod in the Palace in the morning because we are going to talk about it. So.
I'll be on those scouting YouTubes that post like the little 3-minute snippets and show all of his
his
key spots. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Our man Dre, he says, no downside I can see with Boogie coming back. Yeah, it's a good thing, man. Need bodies. I mean, my God.
You don't get to be picky. You don't get to be picky whenever you got 6.5 rotation players. You just need to have all the guys you can.
Yes. No, it's very true. Dre says, yeah, I think we're on the same page here. He says DJ has to have the ball. Boogie spreads the floor. Added shooting gives more driving opportunities for everyone else. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because when Boogie went out, Arkansas figured out some things. Guys kind of settled into better roles. They started playing better offensively. When Theo goes out, all of a sudden you're like, damn, like you're missing over 30 points per game. Who's going to score? But then you insert Trevin and that spacing aspect, and hey, he's knocking down threes. That's great. But that opened up driving lanes for everybody. And so, yeah, now you're in a situation here where you could add another shooter onto the floor. Works wonders. It really does, because you don't have a clogged up paint in there. So I'm with you, man. I think it's only a good thing for the Razorbacks. Captain, wow, goodness gracious.
Big boy.
Thank you, Captain Solo. And also shout out to Captain Solo for hitting me up in the DMs with a picture of their child in a Razorback onesie, and is basically saying this: you gotta get yourself one of these. And it was a vintage. Okay, I was thinking about maybe a I don't know, like a sweater hog onesie or something might be cool.
Like
I'm not gonna do the slobber hog, although it'd be funny because babies slobber on everything. But anyway, it says yes, sir. Boogie is back. There we go for the sweater hog onesie fun. That could get us about 25 of them or more, yeah. I feel like, but hey, we appreciate it nonetheless, and very cool tapping in from Alaska, man. That's big time.
For everyone that thinks that we're so negative and we don't want Arkansas to succeed, when good news happens, this is the kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't like this. You think we don't want good things to happen to Arkansas? Look at the smiles on our faces. Come on.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And hey, maybe, just maybe, the Hogs wind up in Seattle. And it's closer in time zone to what you got going on over there. So,
where's Captain Solo out? Where's he located?
Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
is he in the time of year? I guess he's about to enter the time of year where it's going to be sunny for 6 months.
Maybe so. Yeah. Or I guess maybe they're past the time where it's dark for 2 weeks at a time or something.
Yeah. Which one would you rather have? The dark for 6 months or I guess if you're in Alaska, he has to have both, but like, would you rather that it be dark all the time or it be sunny all the time?
Sunny, I think. Do you? But my only thing is I don't know how I'd sleep, man.
In the dark? Oh, you mean in the sun?
You would like the sunlight. Like you have to wear blackout curtains and stuff to figure it out. But
I think everybody in Alaska, that's like an auto. As soon as you get a house in Alaska, you got to get the like ones that come down and they really close it in.
But I will tell you, I move different in the nighttime. So
I know I kind of like the nighttime a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, 10 a.m. nighttime, that could activate me.
Yeah, exactly. I see. All right, fine. We'll get into a couple of these. I don't want to spoil too much because we are going to talk a little bit of portal stuff on the pod the morning. We're obviously going to talk a lot of, bracketology and final predictions and everything like that. But this is a very valid question. Slayer says, any news on Theo? No, not yet.
No.
And does it feel kind of telling that we didn't get anything on him today? I don't know. So we'll see. It's a tough call on Theo, man, because I've again, and I said this on Inside Arkansas Live. I said it on the pod at the Palace too. I've had more conflicting reports on him than anything. The most consistent information that I was getting was that there's a pretty good chance Arkansas could get one guy back for the NCAA tournament. And that's kind of what we were trying to portray. And well, it turns out here we go. Boogie. So that's good. That was accurate. But I had heard similar things that they might be able to get Theo back for the NCAA tournament. And I really started to believe that once he came back for that Mississippi State game and the way he was moving around, walking around good, not limping, getting up and down. Yeah. I know there were reports about a torn meniscus and stuff. And hell, I don't know. I have no idea what was really going on with him. But when I see him going up and down stairs fine, sitting down, standing up fine, like those are the things you really, really struggle with if you have a meniscus tear. So that was encouraging to me, but I'm just really connecting dots because no sooner than I heard, they feel good about him potentially coming back for the tournament. I also heard it wasn't happening, and I trust both people. So rather than just picking one and running with it, I'm man enough to say I really don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
There's also a lot of time. There's still time. 3-4 days before they really would have a better idea of that.
And the good thing is, we're not going to hear anything from. I I wouldn't imagine from Cal or whatever. If you ask him, if he wants somebody to know, he'll send Greenberg a text message and tell him to put it out there or whatever. He's not going to tell the press if you ask him there, but wherever they wind up for the tournament, like the day before or 2 days before, we will be able to go in there and watch them practice. And we will know if Adu Thiero is dressed out and at said practice. So we should have at least a decent indication of if he's going to be dressed out or not 24 hours or more before they play. Worst case scenario. So I'll take it.
Keep in mind, you keep winning, the tournament lasts multiple weeks, 2-3 weeks. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. Okay. So Jay Chippy says, is it better to be a 10 seed or an 11 seed? I don't know that it matters that much. The thing about an 11 seed is you just don't want to be one of the bottom 11 seeds and wind up in Dayton. And it's the variance here with Arkansas is it's kind of crazy at this point. I feel very strongly that Arkansas is going to wind up with a 10. I really do. And a lot of people have them right on that. And I've seen some really good bracketologists actually have them at a 9 right now, which I think is maybe too high if I'm being honest. But I've also seen some 11s in there. And I've also seen a couple people who have them in that first 4 situation in Dayton. It all depends on what you place the most value in and what you think the selection committee is placing the most value in. Because people who put this together, what they're doing is trying to predict what the selection committee is going to do. They know what all the criteria is, but there's also the human element to where there are certain things that they're going to weigh a little bit heavier. And if it's a favorable metric or whatever for Arkansas, then there'll be a 9 or a 10. And if it's not, then they'll be at the bottom of that 10 list or maybe an 11. And if Memphis loses tomorrow and VCU loses tomorrow and Boise State loses tonight or whatever, is there a potential there that Arkansas could go to Dayton? Yeah, there is. They're 100% in the tournament though. So we'll see. I think they're going to wind up a 10 seed tomorrow. But if we were sitting here and it was like, oh, the first 4 at Dayton Tuesday night, Arkansas and San Diego State, I wouldn't be floored by that, I guess is what I'm saying.
And really, it's all about matchups at the end of the day. And like, there might be an 11 seed that faces a bad 6 seed, and then the 3 seed gets upset. And so your path to the Sweet 16 is a bad 6 seed and then a 14 seed or something like that. And you might be a 10 seed where your 7's actually pretty good. And then, you're facing Bama in the second round. And it's like that, like there could be a bad draw no matter where you're at. There can also be a good favorable draw. I mean, Arkansas wasn't supposed to play Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16 a few years ago. You just kind of never know until you see it on paper and you see some of these teams play and you see, we might be able to make this work. That can happen in really all of these stances that Arkansas is in. It's just a matter of seeing what those teams are, where they're at, and how they play.
Yes, no, for sure. And let's wrap up on this one with a little bit of a portal tease here. And Andrew, I definitely want to get your thoughts too. But SCT says, Curtis, what's the general portal wish list for next year? So without doing the deep dive on, it depends on who they got coming back or whatever. Just based on this season and projecting into next year, what I think they really need, what I would really like to see them get, I guess, a minimum of 2 knockdown, surefire shooters. And I don't care what position they play. Ideally, you get one in the backcourt and maybe a wing or a 4 or whatever. But 2 reliable, that they're going to be able to knock down 3s for you kind of guys. You probably need an Adu Thiero replacement, and that's hard to find, but kind of that mold, like the athletic jumbo wing that can play multiple positions and is a switchable defender, and then a monster in the paint, just a bruiser and a guy that can get in there and bang and protect the glass and be an enforcer for you. So that would be my quick rundown of what I'd like to see him get.
Yeah, I'm going to take the we'll see who else coming back next year. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, say DJ Wagner does come back, and then you also have these 2 high-level freshman guards, potentially Native Men, who's going to be on the wing. You pretty much wouldn't need that much ball handling at that point. You'd pretty much, it'd be almost kind of counterproductive to go out in the portal and get a legitimate creator. And so I think Eric Musselman would be useful in this portal cycle. I want as many guys in that 6'5" to 6'8" range that are switchable, versatile. The only thing is, like you said, you want a knockdown shooter. Arkansas has to get a guy that just has a high floor of he's going to shoot 6 threes a game. He's going to shoot 38%. That's his skill set. 6'7", makes 3s. Cool. I also, and it isn't at the top of my list, you just need that big defensive-minded center who can come in off the bench and give you 12, 15 minutes. I think that's something that regardless of who comes back for Arkansas, even if you get Z and Trevin back, two guys who I think they should be begging to come back and should be thrilled if they do come back. I think you need that kind of enforcer, that guy who's in the certain matchup. You face the team that's got a really good low post guy. You just need that 6'11", 250-pound body. And it doesn't have to be a guy that has a super diverse skill set, just a big physical defender, rim protector. I really hope Arkansas comes out of this portal cycle, because how many times have we said it throughout the year? Man, you just wish you had, and especially when Adu is struggling. Obviously now he's kind of filling some of that physicality role. I really hope Arkansas just gets some like depth with their big men, even if they get Z and Trevin back, which I think should be what they need. But those guys bring so much offense. I think you need kind of that bruiser down there. Then again, any wing that can shoot, it's hard to say no to them. I think they should bring as many of those as they can.
Heard that. And I actually lied. We're going to end with this one because I'm teeing you up here. See what I did there?
I like that.
But baseball is getting ready to start. Okay. 6 p.m. Arkansas lost their SEC opener yesterday. Transplanted Texan says slight concern if baseball doesn't win one this weekend. How we feel? Give us a little vibe check for baseball as we exit on this Saturday.
Here's my thing. So look, Arkansas played really poorly yesterday defensively. I mean, two things that had not been issues for Arkansas. One of those being Zach Root, who had been awesome. Everybody agreed he should be the Friday night guy. He has by far his worst outing of the year. He didn't get any help behind his defense, which has been, leading the SEC in fielding percentage. One of the best, kind of a staple of the last 5 years here. They played great defense. Neither of those things went their way yesterday, and it kind of blew up in their face. All that being said, Arkansas still kind of gave themselves a chance to win the game. I thought they swung the bats pretty well against a legit Friday night starter in Hunter Elliott. Didn't get the win, but Arkansas offensively played well enough. 10 hits, 6 runs on a Friday night. That should do it more often than not. And so I think I'm frustrated by the loss as well as everyone, but it didn't affect my big picture view of the team. Everyone seems to have changed their big picture view. I think it's big for Gabe Gackle to give Arkansas a good start in this one. You only get 3 innings out of your starter game one, a guy who's been going deep for you. Arkansas didn't really use any arms that they like. Dylan Carter's been a reliable. He hadn't given up a run until yesterday. Ben Bybee helped give them a couple innings. Tate McGuire. These have not really been super high leverage arms. You still got Fouch. You still got Wiggins. You still got Coyle. You still got Colin Fisher. Arkansas still has options. Will McIntyre's still there. Arkansas has a ton left on the mound. So the idea that Arkansas couldn't come back and win these next 2 games is crazy. I think Gabe Gackle's going to have to give them 5 or 6. He's fully capable of doing it. You saw the right-handed pitchers for Arkansas yesterday do a lot better against that Ole Miss lineup. So a right-hander with some velocity might be the better matchup here. We'll see how it plays out. But I think fans in general hate not knowing. They hate not knowing that they have that for sure Hagen Smith type Friday guy. And I've said it going back to the fall. I've said Arkansas does not have a guy like that. They might not have a guy like that for the next 20 years, but they don't have like that surefire ace. But what they have is 3 really good starting pitchers. I still feel that way about Root, who's going to be a lot better. I still feel that way about Gackle, who I think is going to be good tonight, and he's going to continue to be good. And I feel that way about Beidelshees tomorrow. And so to answer to transplanted Texans' point, if Arkansas gets swept on the road against Ole Miss, I'll be like, damn, that sucks. And then maybe we can readjust and we'll reset. But after last night, I'm real.
Oh, well, it wouldn't be a show without Cox or Ozarks Go or something going wrong with Andrew there.
At the buzzer.
At the buzzer, and you're still frozen on my screen. This is wild. But hey, regardless, win or lose for the Razorbacks, we're going to be looking forward to hearing about it on the Bombastic Podcast. Folks, if you're not subscribed, if you're not tapped in to the Bombastic Podcast, make sure you do that. It's on our YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, you name it. Tap in with Andrew for that. It's really good stuff. Always entertaining, good or bad, for the Diamond Hogs. Same thing with the Pod at the Palace. I mean, we got everything going on. It's March Madness season. It's transfer portal season. We got you covered there. And then obviously Inside Arkansas live every Monday through Friday at noon. But we're going to get out of here and enjoy the rest of Saturday. And you guys should do the same. So for Andrew Ellis, Curtis Wilkerson, Inside Arkansas, Pod at the Palace, good news for the Razorbacks with Boogie Fland. Enjoy it. Tune in tomorrow. We'll catch you guys later.